And welcome in to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the three-man weave presented by Action Network, all brought to you by BetMGM. I am your host, Matthew. I'm Ron Burgundy. Matthew Cox hosting today. Jim Root, Kai McKeon joining me per usual through the Zoom machine. Kai adorned in some relatively, I would say, stale Christmas attire. It is December 27th. We want to put those away. I don't like being the podcast that still talks about Christmas festivities well after it's passed. But how are you today, sir?
Matt, doing well. Big Bets on Campus, of course, is the name of this podcast. And I am, like so many people that leave their tree up, I'm ready to keep my Christmas spirit going through the new year. That's just how I roll, baby. I'm excited to talk games. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm a Christmas lights guy
Jim?
as long as you want them. Love having Christmas lights up and just kind of make my room feel a little more festive. So I'm going to keep mine up for a while.
More of a holiday light. And thank you, Kai, for inserting those important plug of this podcast. Yes, it's the Big Bets on Campus show. That's the name of this presentation. The outline structure is the standard. We'll hit our 6-pack of sections. And if you've been with us before, you know we start off with the live dog of the week. Last week, interesting. I'd say overall pretty decent effort from the boys. We nailed Cornell. Brian Earl is an absolute wizard. If you guys have not seen Cornell play, I swear it has the talent of a middle school team. But, man, they are fun to watch, and they execute, and they make shots. They knocked off Colgate, so very well done by us. But Butler, Southern Miss, and then Chattanooga against Mike Wade, gross. Just a lot of collapses. But
they had that game won, man. I don't know what happened on the stretch there. Frustrating.
And then didn't cover either. So double whammy for those who backed both the money line and the spread. But hey, more opportunities this week as we come out of the Christmas break to hit some money line dogs. Going to focus on the Wednesday slate, recording here on Tuesday. Again, a lot of conference play starting up, and we have some interesting lines where they fall within like the 6 to 9 point range. Typically, you have two pretty competent teams, and I think that in some cases, home court might just be a little bit overpriced, or the team that's at home might just be overvalued. And there's two that I'm looking to target right here, and I'll just get selfish right off the bat. You guys feel free to pepper up any others that you found as you skimmed the schedule. Tennessee's going to Ole Miss, and Wichita's going to UCF on Wednesday. Those lines currently actually are posted at DraftKings or redacted, a book not to be named. But 8.5 and 7 are those numbers currently. Jim, 7 at UCF and 8.5 at Ole Miss feel way too high for both home dogs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the Ole Miss one definitely intrigues me from a spread perspective. I don't think I'm going to get there on outright. I don't think Ole Miss is very good right now. They got Deshaun Ruffin back, but he is nowhere near himself. He's actually been more efficient this year, Kai, but I like watching the eye test. He just doesn't have the same kind of explosion. After every game, they ask him how he's doing, and he's like, well, better than last week. He never says I'm 100%. He never says I'm feeling great. He just says better than last week. And so I think that kind of limits their shot creation. They're trying to figure out their front court rotation. Doesn't seem like Akuba has worked out, the transfer from Louisiana. But I think they compete there against Tennessee, who may or may not have Josiah Jordan-James. They've been playing patsies the last couple of weeks here, or last week or so. This is a big step up in competition in a conference game. 8.5 feels too high, but I won't go outright on that one.
Yeah, Mississippi has had success against Tennessee. They beat him in 2021, Kermit Davis. Why not? But Tennessee scares me. Currently, they have the best adjusted defensive efficiency in KenPom's history right now. In the last 21 years, they are an octave above everybody else right now this season. Then it's Houston, then it's the rest of the pack. That scares me, especially for an Ole Miss team that can struggle to score. They lost outright to North Alabama. That's tough. Now, maybe you could say this is a perfect time to back Ole Miss, right? They're bouncing back, first conference game. It's at home against arguably the favorite in the conference, Matt. So on the number, I will consider Ole Miss here. Wichita, not so much. I like them better at home. UCF, I respect them a lot.
I'll add to the Ole Miss analysis that while I think Ole Miss is a little bit in disarray and Tennessee looks like a mini juggernaut right now, Kermit's kind of had Rick Barnes' number. Beat them at home 2 years ago, took them to overtime last year in Knoxville. That was a worse version of an Ole Miss team than what we see this year. Just schematically, you think that the mixing defenses that Kermit sometimes uses is a good counter to Tennessee's
Rick
sort of
Barnes
antiquated offense.
Zone.
Right. Yeah. There's a time, Jim, I remember where I backed Rick Barnes against Oregon State zone, in a tournament not so long ago, and that flamed out famously. So yeah, I kind of should use that as a precedent to maybe hammer Land Shark here. I won't though. I'm too scared. And same with Wichita. I'm not going to bet it because Craig Porter being out does potentially bother me. Quick hitter for another a couple more on Wednesday. The New Mexico twofer. New Mexico State's hosting Southern Utah to kick off conference action there in the WAC, and New Mexico is hosting Colorado State to kick off Mountain West action. Those lines are going to sit roughly at 7 and 9 points, respectively, depending on how the market opens and where the early money comes in. I just thought both were pretty high. I'm probably not going to bet Southern Utah and Colorado State money line, but I think they're probably good looks on the number. Any thoughts on those two, gentlemen?
Yeah, would agree on the number, especially I really like Colorado State 8.5. I think they're just undervalued in the market because of not having Isaiah Stevens for a while. And then they had the huge egg lay at Colorado where they looked horrible with him, and that deflated their value. And while I respect New Mexico, I respect the Pit. I think this New Mexico team's actually really good. I'm going to give them a little bit of a plug later, hint in the spotlight section. But I do think 8.5 is too many. I think Colorado State can hang around there, Kai, and compete and keep that one close.
I do too. I like Colorado State. I will take them for the show for a moneyline special. I love New Mexico, one of my favorite teams to watch this season. I think, though, if you're looking at it from a value perspective, you're getting an ultimate buy low on Colorado State. You're getting an ultimate sell high on New Mexico. These teams are probably close to their peaks. I mean, you could argue New Mexico still has room to grow, but I think they're pretty close that way, and that's the perfect time to pounce. Certainly at +8.5, +8, whatever the market ends up being in this game. Southern Utah, they have the talent to beat New Mexico State, but that squad's really good, and especially at home and in the WAC, they don't lose many games in this conference. I'd probably stay away from that one.
There's personnel potential limitations there for New Mexico State. Dejuan Gordon missed last game in the little Sun Bowl Invitational they played pre-Christmas, and then Anthony Roy, Matt, has still been out for a while, and he's kind of an important shooter for a team that doesn't have a ton of it.
So here's the Anthony Roy thing, not to go on a really nitty-gritty tangent here, Jim, but apparently he is on probation, so he can only play in home games. So we'll actually be playing in this. Yeah, I think he has some charge outstanding. Just another notch on the New Mexico State. What in the world is that program doing? Belt?
Yes.
So I believe he's going to actually play here. Yeah, just a lights-out shooter. And the fans think he's like worth 10 points.
State at all, or can he not play in road games?
Right, just like if you're in, I mean, I've never been on probation myself, but let's say I committed a felony of sorts. You're on probation. I picture Ocean's 11, Kai, when Danny Ocean calls his probation officer. And so that's Mr. Roar. I think he will be playing in this game.
Okay, that's good. That's important.
So good. Glad we hashed it out. Hey, Thursday, quick two-hitter. Georgetown going to DePaul for a little Big East action. And Rice goes to Western Kentucky in a Conference USA showdown. Both of these are going to hover around 6, according to the Ken Palm sneak peek, look ahead lines. I am a glutton if I actually bet Georgetown. But DePaul as a favorite doesn't really feel like the right side either. And I think Rice is an absolute home run bet against Western Kentucky. So my only bet of this section so far for just to kind of tease it here is Rice as a money line bet against the tops. Kai, thoughts on those two?
Taking Rice also. I will definitely be on them as a dog because Western Kentucky continues to prove they're a terrible favorite. Rick Stansbury can't even win games outright as a favorite. It's nuts. Lost to Louisville, lost to, what was that team they just lost to? Help me out.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Come on, guys. The two worst power conferences, with apologies to Cal.
They would certainly lose to Cal. They'd find a way.
Yes. And speaking of power conferences, Georgetown has 2 chances to win a game in the Big East this year. It's this one at DePaul tomorrow, and it's when they host DePaul later on. I think they're going to get one of these games. This could be it. They have the talent to beat them. Yorane is still not really himself, working back in the lineup. Ongenda, I think, is still out. Good spot to back Georgetown with caution. It is Pat Ewing after all.
Yeah, I'm going to be a sicko and take Georgetown as well.
Yep.
I'm also going to join you on Rice, Matthew. I think they're both very good spots here. Georgetown, I mean, it's like hard to recommend that because they could just lose by 20 and you feel stupid because you're like, wait a second, they're still Georgetown. Why did I put any of my hard-earned dollars on them? But Kai, you mentioned Ane is definitely not himself, and there's a chance we get Caleb Murphy debuting for DePaul, and I think he's going to shoot them out of some games because he's going to take 15 to 18 footers with his heels on the 3-point line that brick. Georgetown at least has a talent level to play up when they're hopefully motivated by the chance of getting an actual win.
Yeah, just a reminder, I know it feels like decades ago, Georgetown was up 60-53 with 10 minutes remaining at Connecticut, which looks like the best team in like 20 years in basketball. I mean, that's hyperbole, but they have looked completely dominant. So just another evidence of Georgetown's whack-a-mole nature. I'm with you, though. I think Town's a good bet. I'm not going to take them on the money line. Hey, Kai, Jim, you guys had some others identified. Jim, to you first. I looked at these. I liked them. I didn't love them.
Yeah, there's a lot of candidates because there's a lot of games Wednesday and especially Thursday. There's almost 100 line games.
Ugh.
And they're conference games, so we're getting down to like shorter spreads, more money line underdog opportunities. I'm going to take Duquesne +8 at Dayton. That's the Ken Pom line. We don't have an official line yet. We don't know Tevin Brewer's status on Duquesne's side, and I think Malachi Smith and Kobe Elvis will still be out for Dayton. I just kind of think maybe there's a chance Duquesne makes a statement to start league play. It says, we're here, we're legitimate. Dayton hasn't beaten anyone really good this year. Duquesne has a shot there on the road +8. I thought about UC Davis at Hawaii, potential letdown for Hawaii after the Diamond Head, and possibly Tulane at Cincinnati, but I'm going to stay off those two, Kai. Those are just ones I considered but didn't quite take.
Yep, I was looking at getting extra frisky and going Vermont +13 at Miami, Florida. Larinaga, familiar with Vermont, of course. And then Georgia State is at home.
Interesting angle here. I like
+7 home dog against James Madison, a team that looked fantastic in the non-con. First Sun Belt bout here. Georgia State has been a program that's been at the top of the league for many years. I think they're pretty up for this game. I think they could win this game outright. Not official for me, but some interesting ones I'm looking at.
Yeah, Georgia State getting healthier, and then James Madison just lost in double OT to Coppin State. I know that was kind of a weird midday game, and you could argue the circumstances played into the letdown for James Madison, but it's another evidence that James Madison is not this unassailable rocket ship. I think they are flawed, and Georgia State's got plenty of talent, and it could be a good buy low. That might be one I'll add. Fine, I'm adding that one. Okay, Georgia State and Rice are my official plays.
When James Madison wins, they win by 50
million.
Right?
Yeah.
And it like really, you feel dumb when you're against them and they look superhuman, but they have some shaky efforts here and there.
Right. You don't lose more money because your bet loses by more points. So that is part of like the mental fear that that comes with fading James Madison. Quick recap, Jimbo, you got 3 on the docks before we move on to Blowout City.
Yep. I'm going with Georgetown, Rice, and Duquesne. Those are my 3 official locked in for the show wagers. Kai.
I'm going Georgetown, Colorado State, and Rice as well.
Rice and Georgia State are my twofer, and that concludes the live dog of the week. Up to section 2, Blowout City. And it's not even worth discussing this section. I think we just need to punish ourselves, take a few lashings, laugh, and then move on to the next section because we did endorse Iowa against Eastern Illinois.
What the hell happened?
Historic.
And I think that will go down as one of the worst takes and old takes exposed ever in podcasting history of any sport, of any politic, economy, whatever you want to call it. It's just an outrageously terrible take. We're sorry if anyone actually laid the points with Iowa. I did. I lost money.
The only time in the last 16 years they haven't covered, in the last 16 attempts that they haven't covered in that scenario. Huge favorite, non-conference, November, December. They're 15-0 their last 15, and then suddenly they lose outright. Makes no sense.
As the biggest favorite ever to lose outright is since sports betting started tracking it. Or -31, I think it was.
Insane.
And the other one we endorsed, Kentucky, which was like up 7 late against Florida A&M, who's awful too.
Doesn't
Kentucky says, John Calipari should send a Christmas gift to Fran McCaffrey for disguising what was another disgusting effort in Lexington. I think the sky is falling for those who are deeply embedded in Big Blue Nation. Yeah, I don't quite see it as the same doomsday Armageddon, but the locals are not happy with the way that's going right now. So with our confidence oozing here, Albany at Virginia on Wednesday and Central Arkansas at TCU. They both seem too good to be true. I don't know. Either plays for either of you two.
I bet Virginia smashes Albany. I probably buy that.
Albany is a disaster. I kind of agree with that.
They're
it's
also
a slow
type of team,
crockpot.
They're also the type of team that will get blown out, and Virginia is better in every aspect. I think it'll be a crockpot, Matthew. Yes. Like by 30, 35 points.
Yeah, you might. They're only up 12 at halftime,
Yep.
but they just methodically rip them apart. And there's a chance they also get up by 30 right away. But I think the more likely scenario is, like you said, crockpot takes a little while, but Albany's really bad.
I have no profound takes on Central Arkansas at TCU. The Bears are big-ish, but you're not bigger than TCU, so that could be a disaster as well. Thursday, any thoughts on what's kind of a fun little scheduling quirk here? The Big Ten is the Big Ten SWAC, 3 different matchups. Ohio State hosting Alabama A&M. Purdue is hosting Florida A&M, who just gave Kentucky a little scare. I think Purdue smashes Florida A&M.
And then Illinois plays, they will murder them.
That's a disaster. Right, that's a runaway. And then Illinois hosting Bethune-Cookman, the highly talented Wildcats of Daytona, who have been wildly disappointing this season. So, speaking of wildly disappointing lately, Illinois. All that is to say, no bets for me in any of those 3 games, but 3 options if you're looking to lay large favorites coming out of Christmas break.
I think the Edey one, if he's in there, I think they just demolish Florida A&M. There's a chance that maybe I would add Penn State over Delaware State here as well. I just think these road teams that are ready for conference play, they're sick of the long schedules that they've, especially the SWAC and MEAC teams, where they're just buy game, travel. There's probably a little bit of a quit factor to them coming up here.
Yeah, there's one I almost included here. Ryder heads to Georgia for the first of 3 games in 5 days, the latter 2 of which are conference games. Mm-hmm. But Georgia as a large favorite is just, Mike White hasn't beaten any team decidedly this year, so did not make the cut. Hey, we should probably pour it out. This might be the last week we do the Blowout City section, as conference play limits the opportunity to have these massive spreads, but we'll try and pick and find a few more going forward here. And we're back with breakdown of the power games, plural, of the week. We're talking about potentially 2 to 3 here. Again, ton of conference action heating up this week and weekend. We're going to do a quick spotlight on the SEC. And I want to talk about 2 games in particular, one of which is near and dear to both of your hearts. The other of which we did talk about a little bit at the onset, but I like these both because they actually have real lines out at this juncture. Kentucky heads into Mizzou Arena as a short, Kai, too short. 2.5-point favorite.
Yes.
Or is Kentucky just bad enough that the line actually is justified?
That's too short. I think it'll be higher, but these teams have 5 quality wins between them, and Mizzou has 4 of the best 5. Three of the best 5. That's saying something. Kentucky really hasn't beaten anyone. Neutral against Michigan. That's their win. Am I nervous for Mizzou? Yeah. Yes. Oscar Tshiebwe Jim will have 20 rebounds. I would stake my reputation on it. He will get 20 rebounds. I'm just hoping the Tigers can shoot as well as they did against Illinois and show a little bit of that fire they showed. It's going to be sold out. This game is going to be hyped for Columbia folks. I think Mizzou can hang, but 3 is too short.
Yeah, from a numeric perspective, like you said, it's surprisingly low. Although I am really low on Kentucky right now. I've been knocking them. I just don't think they have any idea what their best lineup is, how they play best together. I don't think they know, and that's a problem. And Mizzou actually looks like very connected. That performance against Illinois was like, even with Mosley not being a part of it, the chemistry really popped off the floor there. And it helps when you hit shots early. Everything kind of goes well when you do that. But I was impressed. I think Mizzou wins this game from a gut sense. So I'm not going to bet Kentucky because of the number. But I do fear. I think maybe the best bet on the board is, like you said, Oscar Tshiebwe. If you find an over on rebounds for him, I don't understand how he doesn't get at least 16. 20 is very likely. That's the fear if you're Mizzou here.
If you think Kentucky stinks and Mizzou's going to repeat the Illinois performance, I think the over is a phenomenal bet. Jim, you mentioned this. There's no off switch to Mizzou when they get into lopsided games.
They're never walking the ball up.
No, they're up 25. They're looking to run down and take a quick shot, like first open look. So yeah, points could be in high abundance there. I guess we talked about Tennessee, Ole Miss, so I don't want to belabor that anymore. Maybe we can hit which of the 3 intrigue you, Kai, of the Alabama, Mississippi State, Arkansas, LSU, Florida, Auburn. To me, Pig Suey at LSU, a line that I think will be higher than most people expect, but I think justifiably high given how, I guess, non-threatening LSU has been so far this season.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that game, so it doesn't intrigue me. Alabama, Miss State will be the best game.
Yep.
But Florida at Auburn is the one I'm most interested in because Florida's in desperate need of a win. They need a quality win. Their resume is not good right now. They failed to take care of business in the non-con. They failed to get any wins. Auburn has looked okay this season. I would say we're skeptical of them, but they are at home. And home Auburn is a different beast than away Auburn. If Florida can pull a win at Auburn, it's a huge feather in their cap. It's a huge statement. If Auburn wins this game, takes care of business, they seem to be on track for potentially a top 5 seed once again.
Yeah, I'm curious if Florida can handle the pressure of being in that that pressure cooker of a jungle that Auburn throws at you. Do they have enough ball handlers with Lofton? He's been in and out of the lineup. Bonham is a lot smaller. He could struggle with the size. And Auburn's just so elite at the rim. Florida can't really shoot. They've made some shots, but they don't take that many threes. And if you have to go inside against that Auburn team, you are going to struggle to score. Like, they have the best collection of shot blockers in the country, despite Walker Kessler going pro. Janai Broome, Dylan Cardwell, those guys will take things away from you. I kind of fear for Florida there, Matt. The one I'm most excited for is probably the Tide and the Bulldogs, Alabama, Mississippi State, but that could be a weird slugfest. We'll see.
Yeah, I could see that game being lower scoring than people think. The LSU one's interesting. Like, they're on the outside looking in bubble wise. I mean, obviously we're not even near the bubble discussion.
Fakest 11-1 record.
It's
they're
so
11-1. They're on the right side of the bubble,
but they are, because they're 11-1. You're right. They haven't really lost any bad games. I don't know how raucous that environment's going to be Christmas break against Pig Suey, but I looked at the numbers. LSU's home road ATS the last 5 years actually have not been as stark as I thought. I kind of viewed them as like an awesome home team, bad on the road. It really hasn't been that imbalanced. So I guess I would say don't be afraid to lay the points on the road with Arkansas, which I think I will probably do.
How much does Nick Smith's indefinite absence bother you?
I have him out just as a conservative assumption. It does bother me. I worry about the depth. I've kind of mentioned how I'm cautiously skeptic about how dynamic that team is without him. They just don't have the depth, especially at guard. But man, they're big up front, and I think they can negate KJ Williams, which to me has been like the only reliable option for LSU this year. Like, all their other guys are kind of hit or miss, Jekyll and Hyde. KJ Williams has been like their star and their engine. They can take away him. I think they'll be fine. I apologize to the Thursday slate. There were some good games, but none that juicy. I think I just want to talk about these next two mid-major games as we seamlessly transition to our next section of the show. Mid-major game of the week, and we have two doozies, both on Thursday, so you'll have to exhibit some patience until these come through. Florida Atlantic at North Texas, Sam Houston at Utah Valley. Man, Florida Atlantic seeing a plus next to their name would be a wild development. But obviously North Texas, Grant McCasland, been the class of that league now for what feels like 3 seasons. But this FAU team is a different beast. Kai, I think they're a top 10 team. Slightly exaggerating, but they basically play like one today. I just, out of principle, I'm going to back them because I have to back them. I haven't backed them all year. I've been too late on the rating, but I will be backing FAU in this game.
I'd like to. I think they can match up with North Texas, but this North Texas team is really, really, really good themselves. Do we believe that FAU is better than them this year? I'm not sure I do quite yet. I think people have started forgotten or sort of forgotten about North Texas. I think they start to prove why they were preseason favorites in this league, why they do so well under Grant McCasland every single season. And I think they take care of business here. We'll see where the spread gets. I'm very curious to see which way the market pushes this game. If the market really believes that FAU Jim is 13 spots higher than them as KenPom has them.
Yeah, I think North Texas often exposes teams like any little thing you don't do well or are poorly coached on. Like, if you take a little bit of a bad shot every once in a while, or you turn the ball over a little bit, North Texas will bring that out of you because of how disciplined they are. But I think FAU is like mega well coached, and they have a million guards. They can make shots over the top if they need to. I'm just totally enamored with this FAU team. I know that they don't have like a bunch of home run wins right now, other than at Florida. They've just kind of dominated a shaky schedule. But I think it's totally legitimate. I think they are an at-large caliber team, maybe not top 10, like Matthew said. But I think they are very close to the favorite in this league, as good as UAB and North Texas are. I think FAU kind of announces themselves here. They start league play with at North Texas versus UAB. So we're going to know pretty soon on FAU. And man, I think we find out right away. I'm an Owl guy here.
Yeah, I'll be on the Hoot Owls as well. With all due respect to our guy Grant McCastle, I just think it's their game. And Jim, good fortune for them in the scheduling. FAU, they get a whole week off and come back home to host UAB, so they could be 2-0, sitting real good for an at-large berth potentially just after the new year. Next game, Sam Houston at Utah Valley. Sam Houston, another early mid-major. What the heck? Where did that come from? KenPom has this +1 at Utah Valley. Utah Valley is a team that I think people are not privy to how good they've been. Obviously, winning at Oregon got some people's attention, but they also won handily at BYU. Should have won in Wake. Kind of got hosed in that game late, lost in overtime. Did lose at Boise pretty convincingly, but they've had some injuries early. They're now healthier. And I continue to undervalue Mark Madsen every season. Like I lose so much money fading this team, and I just have to finally accept that they're really good. All that is to say, Kai, there's not been a better ATS coach in the last 3 years, as you highlighted in one of our earlier sections than Mr. Hooten.
Jason Hooten's awesome. Yeah. Him and Madsen both get not enough respect in the market. Well, the market, I suppose, respects them, but in college basketball media circles, Sam Houston has no business being as good as they are this season, but they tend to get, they seem to get better every single year somehow, despite losing everybody from the year before. Having said that, I think this is Utah Valley's game. I think they take care of business here. A 1-point spread is like the best spread ever to bet on. It's fantastic. So I will probably be on the Wolverines here. TBD on what the market does. I bet Utah Valley ends up a favorite.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I haven't like dug into what I would make this yet. But I like from a gut sense, I lean towards Sam Houston. I think they can kind of harass the Utah Valley guards. Interesting with Sam Houston is they've got the win at Utah, the win at Oklahoma. Those are like two top of the resume wins. They're 10-2, and their non-conference strength of schedule looks gorgeous. It's 31st per KenPom. It's because they played 491 teams instead of playing bottom of the country teams. They played non-D1s, and those don't influence those numbers.
Smart,
very clever gaming of the system by Mr. Hooten here. They're atop the WAC in the newfangled KenPom influenced ratings for seedings. Sam Houston sits atop that measurement as well. I kind of like them on the road, but going to elevation at Utah Valley is always dicey.
It is, and they didn't do it last year. Utah Valley came to Sam Houston, actually beat Sam Houston in their building. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. A team like Sam Houston, their first trip to the altitude, I think they'll be playing Utah Tech shortly after if they have that. Oh, no, sorry. They're actually playing New Mexico State 48 hours later. Wow, add that to the schedule. That's a tough turnaround going from altitude down to
that's probably
State.
a New Mexico State wager there.
Yeah, that's on New Year's Eve. So make sure to add that to your list, folks, while you're out drinking champagne and blowing horns or whatever.
Huh? Oh, yes. Horns.
Yeah. What do you call because what do you call those things?
Kazoos.
Noisemakers.
Noisemakers. Thank you, Jim. I'll go with that one. And that's a great time to conclude that section and move on to our fifth section, the Trash Man Pick of the Week. Getting down and dirty with get ready, drum roll, please. Maryland Eastern Shore at Columbia. I think the Lions have made this section like 3 times now.
Yay, so exciting.
69-68 is the projected final for KenPom. Not as ugly as some of the other options we've talked about in the past, but it's just such a who cares game. Non-conference, 2 teams that aren't any good. Underdog, Kai, thoughts?
Taking Eastern Shore, probably. I've been against Columbia like every single game. Now, they've been feisty lately, to their credit, annoyingly feisty. They shouldn't be. They've been shooting a bit above their heads, in my opinion. And Eastern Shore just beat Temple at Temple. I know Temple had a guy out, but that's pretty impressive. We've seen Jason Crafton be way better than he has any right to be the last couple of years for this team. I think they can win this game on the road.
Yep. They've had Kevin Voiles back the last 5 games, last 6, actually. One of their they carried over basically the entire lineup from last year. And now that they're whole again with him, they've been really competitive. I know they got blown out by Liberty, but solid effort at George Mason. Okay effort at Duke. I mean, they lost by 27, but it's Duke. I get it. And then, the Temple win is kind of like the eyebrow raiser of, that's how good this team can be. Look what they did last year in the non-con, giving St. Joe's and all kinds of teams every bit that they can handle. I think they're actually kind of decent, Matt, and I think they take care of business against Columbia. That will be a bet for me.
All right. I might add to my watch list. I don't have any strong takes either way. I have a lot stronger takes on our final section. Meaty section, Mr. McKeon. Spotlight on conference title futures. It's basically the not last chance, but among the last chances you have to bet. Some of these at many books. Our proud sponsor, BetMGM, has the top 8 power/high major leagues available still. We'll run through all of these, our best picks from each one as currently stands. Some conferences already with games in hand, so you kind of have to look at where they are currently in the leaderboard. For some conferences, the imbalanced schedule, a la Big Ten, will play a factor. I also saw Kevin Willard complaining about the Big Ten scheduling, so I'm sure we'll poke fun at him when we get to the Big Ten. But we start with his prior conference, Kai, the Big East. UConn at a gaudy favorite, -150 to win the league. To me, it feels too obvious. They are at 2-0. Xavier's also at 2-0. Providence also at 2-0. Villanova 1-0. Creighton 2-1. I was looking at Creighton at plus 400, 4-1. Any value there? Or are you too scared of UConn to go against the Huskies?
You could make an argument there's value on Creighton and UConn, or excuse me, Creighton and Xavier, 4-1, 4-1, 6-1. Both are 2-0 in the league. But I think it's UConn's conference. I cannot see them losing this league. So I will stay away from this.
Yeah, especially in a double round robin, true double round robin, I tend to lean towards the favorite because I know there's no wonky scheduling that's going to give an advantage to somebody like Creighton. And I just don't think that the Blue Jays are consistent enough with their young guys at this stage to where I would want to bet on. Like, I think this is properly priced. UConn is the clear favorite, like top 1 or 2 team in the entire country, and maybe no other top 15 teams in the league. So it's UConn.
I would say UConn 150. Like, I mean, I think we took Iona minus 150, same price a few weeks ago. I'll be honest. I think the UConn gap to the field is as good at the same gap as the Iona gap to the MAAC field at this point.
I guess you can't parlay futures at BetMGM, unfortunately, but I do have UConn in a couple futures parlays at other books. I think it is it is a worthy add in there to get better prices on certain teams.
Maybe a little Creighton small dabble as a hedge. That's, I think, the only other team I can see winning this league, just given how awesome they've looked with Mr. Kalkbrenner back in the fold. All right, to the Big Bad 10 we go. Purdue is the presumed favorite at BetMGM right now, minus 105.
That's silly.
This is Illinois This is Illinois prices.
Caveat, thank you, Kai. This is the looking at the Illinois book here, so no Illinois schools, which removes Illinois and Northwestern. Who has been quietly really good. Still, from that tilt, I still think the Purdue thing is a terrible bet. I'm looking, Jim, down the leaderboard like like an Iowa or a Michigan or a Wisconsin, like 12-1, 14-1, 18-1. I think this is one where you should take a flyer as my short recommendation.
Yeah, I know Illinois is not listed here, but they're 0-2, have already lost a home game to Penn State. They look like a mess, even though I thought they had the softest schedule this year based on who they play twice. Wouldn't touch them. Kai, I think you have the right one circled. I'm going to let you present it.
Yeah. Just for context, in Arizona, BetMGM has Illinois at 8-1 currently. Okay. Purdue is even money. Purdue should not be a minus favorite. This league is too good. But the answer is Wisconsin at 12-1. They're already 2-0. Are you kidding me? 12-1. This team has won this league very recently with a team that you could argue wasn't that much better than the current one.
Last year they won it with Johnny Davis last year, but I mean they're more balanced. That the style just works for a regular season, right?
It does.
Like it's consistent.
It works, and gosh, compared to the other prices right now, they're the 4th shortest odds in Illinois. I would take a flyer on the Badgers if you're going to take anybody in here.
Badgers they also play Purdue once, and it's at home.
At home, and it's at the end of the year. And
I might just add this.
Kind of you're hoping maybe you catch them without Edey, right? Like it's kind of like maybe part of this handicap, and you have a lot of runway for Edey to maybe.
I wouldn't bet. Edey's literally never missed a game besides last game he took off.
How is he so durable? No 7-footers is durable. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it, but I guess
he hasn't played a big minutes load until this year.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe the taxing Big Ten gauntlet. I don't know though. It's kind of a reach.
He just kind of stands and
he's just kind of awesome.
Much. Yeah.
Lumbers must be a nice life. Nice player. Nice guy. All right. ACC next up, the presumed favorite, Virginia plus 170, Duke at plus 225, UNC at 3-1, Miami at 6-1. Anything else down the line have any sort of intrigue to you, Jim? Virginia Tech at 16-1. I wouldn't go much below that as I look through the options here.
No, I think one of the top 3 teams will win this between Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina. I don't know if I trust UNC even at a slightly better price. This is another one where I think I'd lean towards the favorite. Duke is too inconsistent in league play. Even some of their elite teams with Coach K wouldn't win the regular season just because a young team would have some lapses on the road. And I think Virginia, like Wisconsin, is just that metronomic style that's consistent every night out. I know they already dropped one on the road to Miami, who is 3-0 and maybe beckoning some people at that plus 600. But I think ultimately through the gauntlet, Virginia is going to be the team that comes out.
Yeah, Miami 6-1 is probably the smartest bet. 3-0 already. They beat Virginia already.
The road win is at Louisville.
At Louisville, yeah. Vatech 16-1 is probably the best long shot, in my opinion. They're 1-1 in the league. They have a lot of talent. They are the third highest team in KenPom. Not bad value.
Just don't lose
Yeah.
at BC.
Yeah,
I wonder how
losing to
different
BC.
this
Come on.
price would be. If
Awful.
I wonder, they'd probably be like 11-1 if they had lost
Yeah.
to BC.
Woof. Woof.
Yeah, I'll no, you guys alluded to it, but just to clarify, Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, all at 1-1 right now, while Miami sits at 3-0. I did kind of look at Florida State at
No.
80-1.
Stop it.
No.
Okay, I'll move on. They are 2-1 in the league. Just saying, 80-1 won this conference before. Not untalented. Baba
don't
Miller
be
comes
prior
back
stubborn.
soon. No. Okay. All right, and we'll move along to the American Athletic Conference, where it's Houston and the field. Minus 500 feels high, Kai. I mean, Memphis does intrigue me. I think they're really good at 5-1. That's the only team I'd consider outside of Houston here.
Yeah, sure, but it's Houston's league. There's no way they're losing this conference. So I'm not betting anybody else.
Yeah. This maybe the straddle's gotten a little too wide between the only two teams that have any chance at winning. That'd be Houston and Memphis. But Houston's just awesome, and they're another team like Virginia and Wisconsin that's so consistent night to night with their physicality, and they don't need to make threes to win. That's the kind of team I think is very worth backing in regular season stuff. So I'm not going to do anything with this either.
Yeah, and I think those odds have climbed even from preseason. So
yeah, there was like minus 370.
Minus 3, so it's up to minus 5. Okay. Well, there you go. And no conference games have been played yet in that league, so you're getting a pure bet at this point. To the Big 12. Next up, best league per Ken Pom as it has been for like the last half decade at this point. Another conference where there's been no games played to date. Favorite is Kansas at plus 190, basically 2-1. Baylor at plus 225. Texas, the team without a coach, sort of at 3-1. Jim, those are the three clear favorites with the Mountaineers at 9-1 at 4. Thoughts?
Kansas. I think Kansas wins this league. Baylor's not secure enough defensively, and they're too reliant on shot making to where they're going to have off nights and lose. Kansas has the best home court in the league. They are the best team in the league. Texas without the coach factor is a problem. I mean, maybe you could be intrigued by West Virginia or TCU as longer shots because of
TCU 14-1 maybe.
Yeah, the version of them with Damian Baugh has been excellent and different than the the early season floundering they had against the Southland. But I think Kansas plus 190 is like a good bet here.
Kai,
I do as well.
Action here.
I do as well. Kansas plus 190 is the best bet in this league, in my opinion.
I think I would. That's my yeah. This is my least confident conference, so I have no action here. I think you guys probably have the right edge, though. Next up, Mountain West, heading out west. Favorite San Diego State at minus 135. I am selling all of the Aztec shares. I am looking to pounce on a dark horse lurking. Is it UNLV, Jim, at 10-1? Is it New Mexico at 10-1? Both seem pretty high given how awesome they play in the non-conference.
Yeah, I think for me it'd be New Mexico 10-1. They've got an awesome home court advantage at the pit. I think that's very helpful, and they're a lot more consistent because they've got guys in the front court that actually defend and rebound. They're not just reliant on the jump shot making of Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr. So I think New Mexico is worth a stab there. I have some San Diego State barely plus money from preseason, and I am looking to diversify that because I don't feel confident in them right now. Even though they have a great home court too, but the rest of the leagues just look so strong that I kind of want to balance out the portfolio a little, Kyle.
How dare you? I do agree. New Mexico 10-1 is the best bet here. The spread between San Diego State and the rest of the league isn't as large as we thought it would be in the preseason. There's a lot of good teams in this conference. New Mexico's got the best value.
Yeah, I was going to basically split my 1 unit bet in this conference, just do a half unit on New Mexico and a half unit on UNLV. I think you pretty good chance you get a winner from those two. Basically looking to short San Diego State. Utah State's also coming back down to earth. They've had some tough losses after looking nearly invincible to start the year. And I'm not a big Boise guy. So that's that cap in a nutshell. Staying out west, Pac-12. I am surprised to see, maybe I shouldn't be, Arizona and UCLA with the same odds at plus 140. Now, it's probably me discounting what UCLA has done recently. I believe Arizona is the better team still, and I am inclined to take them or maybe even Oregon an 8-1. Kai.
Well, Arizona's 1-1, UCLA is 2-0. So that's part of it. Yep. And UCLA has been every bit as impressive as Arizona, in my opinion. So I buy the odds here. I'm not taking Oregon. I don't believe in them. Arizona State 16-1 is the flyer I would take. They're already 2-0. and their defense looks legit despite their offense having issues. I would look at them if you're going to look for a flyer in this league.
Yeah, and they won at Colorado.
At Colorado,
Like getting an elevation win is pretty impressive. Matt, I surprisingly disagree strongly. I think UCLA is the better team than Arizona, like fairly convincingly. Wow, okay. Hawkins and Campbell are two like super reliable shot creators late in the clock. They've got a fantastic defensive coach, and Arizona to me right now is more like this is the souped up system that's impossible for teams who've never seen it before to handle. But losing at elevation, I think, kind of shows a little bit of the shortcomings maybe that they have. And UCLA, man, I just think they're going to be so consistent throughout the league schedule. They're probably a little bitter about not getting the title last year, dropping that to Arizona. So I would lean towards UCLA between those two. And I guess long shot, Kai's probably got the right price circled there. Maybe Utah, 25-1, 2-0.
Yeah, that was my
great home court. I don't know.
Didn't play it, but at 2-0 with the win against Arizona in the bag, 25-1 is kind of huge there, right? And the UCLA game, they play. UCLA has to go to Utah late in the year, but then I think Utah goes to UCLA January 12th. So yeah,
Utah's next three are at Cal, at Stanford versus Oregon State. Like they could very easily be 5-0.
5-0, sitting good here. Yep.
You could argue you should probably take Utah now if you want Utah's future, because they probably will win these next three games and be a better, shorter price.
I buy that completely. And yeah, the other Pac-12 teams like Oregon, I was really hopeful for. Selling that. Washington State's clearly not what we thought they were either. So a lot of teams you're not really a fan of in this conference. So kind of stick to like those top three favorites is probably the way to go. Final league, the SEC. Tennessee 2-1 favorite at BetMGM. Alabama 3-1. Kentucky poorly priced in my opinion at 3.5-1.
Yeah, they're not.
How about Mississippi State, the Fighting Christians at 20-1? No, maybe.
How about Mizzou 66-1?
That's too big. I kind of agree.
Mizzou, more quality wins than Mississippi State. Mississippi State has a worse loss than Mizzou, and Mizzou has a better non-con strength of schedule than Mississippi State. Every single net factor you want, Mizzou is superior to Mississippi State right now.
Yeah, I don't understand why Mizzou's behind Texas A&M, LSU, and Florida in terms of price. I just don't think any of those three have proven anywhere near as much as what Mizzou has done so far with a couple road wins they picked up or semi-road at UCF and then the Illinois on a neutral. That said, I would probably say Arkansas is the best value at 4. I think those top 4 teams are all so close to even that getting the best price on them is probably smart. I wouldn't touch Auburn. Mississippi State, the offense isn't good enough, I don't think. But I think Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas especially. I have questions about Kentucky, but I think those three are also close together. I just don't know about Nick Smith Jr. That's the one thing that worries me. So I probably will not bet this league.
If you're going to take Mizzou, I think you have to dabble like one of the favorites. Just, as try to attack each conference as like a little mini portfolio.
It depends what you're looking for. I know I'm not confident in my ability to pick Tennessee, Bama, Kentucky, or Arkansas. So if I'm going to bet anything in this league, I might as well take a flyer really short or really small money.
Yeah, a lot of crapshoots here. That concludes our spotlight on. Let's quickly recap what our official plays are, or maybe some dependencies within those. Jim, I'll go to Kai first. Kai, run through yours. I only have 2 plays.
Yeah, Kansas plus 190 is a good bet, I think, in the Big 12. Wisconsin at 12-1 is a fantastic value bet and just a solid bet in general. And then longer shots, if you're into that sort of thing, Tech at 16-1 in the ACC, Arizona State at 16-1, New Mexico at 10-1 in the Mountain West, and then Mizzou 66-1. Throw a $5 on there and skip lunch. I don't know. That's my portfolio.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Kai with the Kansas plus 190, New Mexico 10-1. I think I've been talked into Wisconsin just because of how consistent they are. And then I kind of like that Utah 25-1. I'm going to mix that in. I have a UCLA preseason wager. I'll get a little Utah in there just because we love them. They're well coached and they've got that elevation advantage.
I'll add Utah small. I have Wisconsin at 12-1 as well. I have Maryland in the bag at 30-1. I would recommend them at 12-1, maybe a little too cheap. I still think they're going to be right there when it's all said and done. Just kind of hit a little bit of a lull at a tough part of the schedule. We talked about the New Mexico UNLV double dabble in the Mountain West. That's a little 2 for play for me. And and I'll join Jim on the Utah 25-1. That sounds like a pretty good value. Mr. Craig Smith and the
Yay, all
Utes
right.
in Salt Lake City. And that concludes the big bets on campus. Served by Action Network. The Weave is out. Thank you, BetMGM. Thank you all those for tuning in. We will be back same time next week. Take care.